Okay, hi guys and welcome to the second part of the Najdorf tutorial. Today we're going through the black responses to white's sixth move of g3, f4, bishop e2, d3, bishop e3, e3 or a4, and black's responses to all of these moves are going to be e5. So let's begin without any further ado and let's look at the g3 variation with the idea of flanking the bishop. And black's idea, like I said, was e5 directly, and white has two options, knight b3 or knight d2. And let's take a look at knight b3 first. And black's idea is always to develop on the king side first and castle, make the king safe. And that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna play bishop e7. And white continues with the plan. We castle, he castle, and then bishop e6. Let's say white plays rook e1, controlling this file, and also a plan of maybe rerouting his knight through this square. So we just play natural moves, knight d7, and we're now preparing to play b5. So the only move to actually prevent b5 is to play a4. And maybe the most important move you have for black here is not queen c7, that will be a mistake, but queen b8. So the idea is that you are looking, taking care of d6. Meanwhile you have options of playing your bishop on these diagonals if you like to. And after you put your you put your bishop here, you can always put back your queen on c7. So that's the whole main idea of that. Let's go back to the main line, and instead of knight b3, white can also go knight to d2. And we have the same strategy, just develop and castle. It's going to be the same. And let's say white doesn't castle like the other variation. Let's say you play h3, for example, with the idea of g4 and tucking the knight in. We go for a queenside, more accelerated version here with b5. And this pretty much, white pretty much have to play a3 or knight d5. And if he plays, for example, a3, we just play natural moves, knight d7, g4, and black is absolutely fine. Black can play h6, he can play g6, he can play knight e6 with the idea of taking care of these two squares. You can even play rook to c8 or e8. You have a lot of possibilities there. So black is absolutely fine here. So instead of playing a3 here, white can play knight to d5, and black take, white take, threaten the rook. And here you have a nice little idea for black, and it's queen c7. It looks like it losing a rook, but actually after queen takes a8, you have knight to c6 and the queen is trapped. He can go nowhere, and there is no way to actually to challenge this position. So it doesn't really matter what white does here. So let's say he castles and the queen is trapped. You're gonna have to exchange his queen for the best piece, and that's the rook. And black is perfectly fine, and that's because white only has one semi-open file. If white had a complete file or two open files, it would be another case, but in this case one and queen is better than two rooks. So even if white tries to open up the position, you can always cramp it down and you will still be better here. Okay, so let's go back to the main position and take a quick look at f4. And the same goes here. We play e5, and the best option I think for white here is to simply play knight to f3. Knight b3 is just more passive. So let's only take a look at the knight f3. It threatens the pawn on e5. So the threat is to both take the queen and lose the castle abilities, and also take the pawn here. So we have to defend e5, and we defend e5 by playing knight to d7. And this is as usual a threat, so white plays a4 to prevent this, and we just go for the regular idea, developing on the king side and castle with the king. So bishop e7, white develops his bishop to d3, we castle, he castles, and now we take on f4. And white takes back, normal moves, and as usual knight to c5. And king over and bishop g4, and this is pretty much the standard position. And from here on black can go bishop h5 and bishop d6, putting pressure on this pawn. And perfect position for black. Okay, so let's go back to the main position and let's take a look at bishop e2. And same idea, e5, and white can go either to b3 or to f3. So let's begin to take a look at f3. Black just continue with bishop e7 and waiting in this move. Bishop g5, threatening to take away the defender of d5. So what we have to do is we have to defend d5, and we do that with bishop e6. So bishop takes f6, we take back, he castles, and we just play back. And the idea is that it's really simple to actually lose this pawn. You can, for example, when you play speed chess, 3 or 5 minutes, you just do this automatically, and pow, the pawn is just gone. So defend the pawn with bishop e7, with the idea of then putting your knight here. So knight e5, knight e7, and black is fine. He can castle, and this knight is only here temporary. Black can play knight f6 or knight b6, and the position is exactly equal. So let's go back here, and instead of knight f3, he can go knight to b3. Same idea, we go bishop e7, and let's say he go developing the bishop to e3, and same idea, bishop e6, controlling this square. Queen d3 is controlling the e4 pawn, and at the same time also taking good care of the d5, so the knight can jump into here whenever he like to. So knight b d7, and now the knight comes in, and it's important to take with the right piece here, because if you only go by automatic here and take this, the bishop will be lost. So we take with the bishop, and pawn takes the bishop, and we play rook c8 on the semi-open file. c4, natural move, and now we castle. And the idea of waiting with castle is because this move looks quite scary actually, and there's no really good options to put your knight in a good square here. So but with this move it's not that likely that black will actually castle long, so now you can actually go for the short castle. Not surprisingly, white castles too, and we can play knight to e8. And the simple idea of just pushing f5, you have ideas of e5, and your bad bishop on e7 you can trade it off by playing bishop to g5. Okay, so let's go back to the main position where white plays knight b3, knight b3, white plays bishop e7, and instead white plays castle instead of bishop to e3. So white castles, and now the threat of this pawn move is not that great, so black can now easily first castle. White continues a4, and that's just to prevent b5, of course. So we continue the natural bishop e6, taking care of the square. Bishop f3, so that's just instead of playing this, he takes care of the pawn with the bishop. Natural move, knight b d7, rook e1, same plan as earlier on. And same plan for us, we play this because we want to activate our bishop. So here we actually see the plan: knight to d2, bishop d8, knight f1, bishop f5, bishop a5, pinning down the knight on e1. So bishop d2 and queen back to queen 7, and from here on black is absolutely fine. He can play a rook to the open file, and yeah, great position for black. Okay, so let's take a look at the next variation with bishop d3, and same idea, e5, and knight back to d2 is the best option. Same idea, develop on the king side first, bishop e7, and whenever white castle first, you can castle direct after, so there's no problem. Knight g3, taking control over f5, bishop e6, controlling this square, knight d5, and now we take this knight again with the bishop. He takes back, and now we have a problem on f5, so we have to play g6 to prevent moves like this. And even if white plays bishop h6, we can play rook over c4, knight b d7, and black is absolutely fine here as well. It's the plan for black is to push these two pawns in the future. And yeah, I'm not going any further with that variation. So let's take a look at the next one. And it looks something like this: bishop e3, followed by e5 and knight b3. And we play bishop to e7, and this is very important that we play bishop e7 before we play bishop e6. Because if we play, for example, bishop e6 first, white can easily go with f4 directly. So now we basically have to take, he takes, and we're gonna have a lot of problems here. For example, we just continue normally, bishop e7, he goes for h3, controlling this square. So knight c6, queen e2, knight d7, and long castle. And this is just an example of how it can, how the position can look after a couple of moves, and it doesn't really look like black has anything. White has a lot of options, a lot of pieces going forwards. So this is not a good setup for black. So don't play bishop e6 first. That's the rule. So bishop e7, and white now continues with f3 first. Now we can play bishop e6, queen d2, and this is a move that white pretty much have to do, because otherwise, if he goes for an immediately g4, black is going to play d5 and is better directly. He both have the d4 option and d takes e option, and this pawn structure is going to fall. So black will be much better if he plays g4 directly. So he plays queen d2, that's the best move, and now we prevent g4 by playing h5. So knight d5, and now we can actually take with the knight because we have a square for the bishop. So he takes back, and we play bishop f5. let's say white go for an attack on the queen side. Knight a5, we just play b6, he plays knight c4, and we protect pawn since he has two pieces on it, so we protect it with knight d7. And from here black is absolutely fine. If we go back to the position where let's play bishop e6 and queen d2 and h5, and instead of playing this move, let's say white plays long castle. So now we just continue with knight to d7, continue the development, and king b1, normal move. When you long castle for white, you always put your king on b1 to protect against any nonsense in the future. And b5, and white continues with h3, and the idea is that he cannot push f4 because he will have a lot of intruders on this square. So before he can make this move, he has to play h3. And now queen c7, white continues with f4, and we play knight b6. And from here on it looks much better for black than in other variations where you play the bishop e6 first. So now you can soon enough get a rook on c7. You're threatening to play a b4, and your king is safe in the middle at the moment and can castle whenever you want to. So black is absolutely fine here. Okay, so let's take a look at the final move for white, and that's a4, and we continue just as usual with e5 and knight f3, bishop e7, and the aggressive bishop c4. And I'm not going any longer in this variation, but the recommendation is to play bishop e6 directly and trade this off. If white takes, black is going to, let's say white just castle, black is going to have a really nice control of the center, and he can play knight c6 followed by castle and h6 whenever he likes to here. So better position for black here. If we go back, and instead of white playing bishop c4, he can play bishop to g5, and we continue the same. We play bishop e6, bishop takes f6, bishop takes back, and knight to d5. And from here on we just defend the bishop with the knight to d7. White continues to attack. We threatened the bishop, and knight b6, and this actually both threatens the bishop and the knight, and the fight on this square is no more, and the attack for white is gone. And yeah, that's all for the Najdorf variation. I hope you really liked it, and yeah, thank you for watching.